recent UFC history.
UFC legend Daniel Cormier rejects the idea of Khamzat versus Caio Borrahlo interim title fight idea. On top of that, DC calls out Khamzat for his disrespectful comments toward Dricus du Plessis after the champ pulled out due to injury. Cormier praised the middleweight champ, saying he has been fighting everyone and injuries can happen.
Fighting people.
Well, the story is Dricus du Plessis and Khamzat Chimaev were set to fight at UFC 317 for the middleweight title. However, according to some news sources, the champ du Plessis got injured that frustrated the Dagestani fighter. Khamzat immediately took on social media to express his frustration and anger after hearing that news. So while pointing out towards DDP, Khamzat wrote in his X account, "This guy is the biggest b****." On the other hand, Dricus du Plessis didn't step back and expose the Dagestani fighter. He shared his and Khamzat's fights in the last 2.5 years. Dricus du Plessis shared that he has fought 6 times in that period as compared to Khamzat, who had 3 canceled bouts out of his 6. Dricus du Plessis shared the images saying, "Let's take a look at the last 2.5 years and tell me who is The UFC Hall of Famer Daniel Cormier has shared his reaction about this whole drama. He reacted to Khamzat's getting angry at du Plessis' injury and said that the fighter should have fought for the belt a way sooner, as he has been a top contender for a long time. According to Cormier, Khamzat has been deserving of a title fight since he destroyed a guy like Robert Whittaker.
Kept everybody excited.
Daniel Cormier further reacted to the verbal war between Khamzat and du Plessis on social media. He backed the stance of du Plessis, acknowledging him for his consistency inside the octagon. Cormier said that the South African fighter is sharing facts, as he has been much more active in the division as compared to Khamzat. Daniel Cormier further pointed out the Dagestani fighter for not having enough fights in the last couple of years, as he believes Khamzat had the potential to become the champion a lot earlier.
So when the Chimaev.
Former UFC champion Michael Bisping reacted to their verbal war and said Dricus du Plessis isn't the one pulling out of fights. Bisping backed DDP for sharing how he has been showing up and beating top contenders. He praised DDP for not ducking anyone and said there's no reason to doubt him. While he acknowledged Khamzat Chimaev as a dominant force, Bisping dismissed the idea that du Plessis is afraid, saying real champions don't fear anyone.
You're the one getting all the cancelled fights, mate. Okay, I'm over here doing my thing, beating the best fighters on the world, time after time, right? Dricus is the man, he's incredible, and I don't think he's sidestepping or dodging or trying to avoid anybody. Now listen, Khamzat Chimaev is a force of nature. He's ridiculous. What he did to Robert Whittaker, what he does to a lot of people, the way that he bulldozes everyone. Yeah, okay, some idiots, some haters on the internet might come up with that narrative, but that isn't Dricus du Plessis. And guess what, fighters? When you're good enough to become champion of the world, you're not afraid of anybody, and certainly when you're a successful defending champion.
Meanwhile, after hearing about Dricus du Plessis' injury, Caio Borrahlo saw an opening for him to compete with a top fighter. He didn't waste any time to call out his former training partner Khamzat Chimaev for an interim title fight. First of all, Caio Borrahlo shared a video with Dana White and Hunter to inform them about his availability for a fight with the Dagestani fighter in the absence of DDP. He said that he is ready for the fight and he is looking forward to facing Khamzat inside the cage.
So I think you all heard the news. So I heard that Dricus du Plessis is hurt for a period of time. So I know a guy that never say no to any fights. Dana, Hunter, you know who to call. I'm waiting.
But the problem is Khamzat isn't interested in fighting him and didn't see him as a real threat or tough competition. Khamzat even said that he would beat him even 100 times because according to Khamzat, Caio was no match for him. However, Caio Borrahlo didn't want to waste this opportunity as he continued to pump up the Dagestani fighter to force him to accept this fight. He challenged Khamzat to prove his words by facing him in the cage. And guess what? He probably succeeded to agree Khamzat, as he shared that the Dagestani fighter had accepted the fight. He said that they might compete in an interim title fight. He even believes that his fight with Khamzat would be much bigger than Dricus du Plessis versus Khamzat Chimaev fight. Caio Borrahlo said, Khamzat said yes. The only thing that makes sense is the interim belt. This fight is going to be bigger than him versus Dricus. Marks my words. Daniel Cormier acknowledged the brave mindset of Caio Borrahlo to challenge a guy like Khamzat Chimaev. Cormier said that no one has called out Khamzat from the last 2 years, and it takes guts to call out someone who completely destroyed a guy like Robert Whittaker.
He said, let's do it.
Cormier praised such a brave approach of Caio Borrahlo, but he wasn't impressed with the idea of an interim title fight. Daniel Cormier said there's no reason for an interim championship fight. He explained that since Dricus du Plessis just fought recently, creating an interim title now would be, in his opinion, one of the most unfair interim title fights in recent UFC history. Daniel Cormier said Dricus du Plessis has done everything a real champion should. He defends his title and has already beaten the top fighters in the middleweight division. He mentioned wins over big names like Adesanya, Strickland, and Whitaker. Because of that, Cormier doesn't see any reason for an interim belt. Still, he believes a fight between Khamzat and Caio could happen, just not for a title.
Happen.
Michael Bisping questioned the idea of an interim title fight between Khamzat Chimaev and Caio Borrahlo, calling it unnecessary. He pointed out that Dricus du Plessis has been active and was set to compete at International Fight Week before an injury forced him out. Since injuries are common, Bisping believes an interim belt only makes sense if Dricus needs surgery and is out for at least 6 to 8 months. Otherwise, the division should wait for the champion's return.
There's potentially a fight that's going to happen between Khamzat Chimaev and Caio Borrahlo for the interim strap, which is crazy because there shouldn't be any talk of an interim title, okay? Dricus has been an active champion. He was going to fight apparently on International Fight Week and he got injured, okay? As I said, injuries happens all the time. The only way I could see any kind of validity to an interim title fight would be if Dricus needs surgery. If he's going to be out for about 6, 7, 8 months at minimum, then okay, fair enough. The division's got to keep moving on. I mean, you've got Imavov there, number one, that's refusing to fight anyone. So that would be the only circumstance where an interim title fight would make sense, okay?
On the other hand, Caio Borrahlo is excited about fighting Khamzat Chimaev, and he is ready to put on a show at UFC 317. However, the fans have found an old video of Caio Borrahlo getting choked out by Khamzat Chimaev during a training session. The question is, if he can't handle Khamzat during a training session a few years ago, then how would he manage to tackle him inside the cage? Khamzat also shared that picture of that training clip on his Instagram to mock Caio. However, Caio Borrahlo admitted he got dominated by Khamzat Chimaev in training and said he has no problem owning up to it. He explained that he was there to help Khamzat prepare, not compete with him. Caio also shared that Khamzat went through about 10 different sparring partners, none of whom lasted long in camp. Most of them got hurt or overwhelmed and had to leave within just a few days. According to Caio, they couldn't handle the intensity of Khamzat's training.
So at the time that I went to Khamzat's training camp, I have no problem to say that I got beat up, you know, because I was helping him. You know what I mean? I was there to help him. And to just think with me, Khamzat had like 10 sparring partners. All of those guys, he never came along with them. He never came friends with them because they were killing each other in training. Khamzat like hurt them, and then they need to leave in like 1 week or 5 days or 4 days. They couldn't stand in his training camp for like 1 week.
Caio Borrahlo said most training partners couldn't handle Khamzat Chimaev's intensity and left within days, but he was the only one who stayed through the entire camp. He trained with Khamzat for nearly 2 months, first in Sweden, then in Vegas, and said he didn't mind getting beat up because he was there to help and learn.
Is that what happened? People just kept coming in and out. People couldn't survive.
No one could stand with him in like whole training camp. I was the only one that would stay with him and became friends with him and stayed with him for like almost 2 months. I was in Sweden for 3-4 weeks, and then I was in Vegas for 2-3 weeks with him, training with him every day, you know?
Yeah.
Because he knows I was trying to help him. He knows I was there to make him win a fight. So if I need to get that and get beat up for 5 rounds, I don't have ego. I don't have nothing against it, you know? I'm there to help, and I'm learning a lot. And that's what I did.
Michael Bisping was so not impressed with the training video getting viral. He mentioned that what happens in the gym should stay in the gym. He explained that Caio Borrahlo was helping Khamzat Chimaev train, being a good training partner. Bisping suggested they were just drilling positions, with Caio letting Khamzat work through them. He pointed out a video where Khamzat took Caio's back, which seemed like part of their drill, with Caio willingly playing the role of training partner.
Everyone has a camera in their hands, and anytime these fighters start to go at it, the cameras come out, gets caught on video, and people start talking, okay? Right? You shouldn't tap and tell. What goes on in the training room should stay in the training room, should stay in the gym. Now, apparently, Caio Borrahlo was helping Khamzat Chimaev train, okay? So he was being a good training partner. Maybe they were just drilling the positions and he was letting him work that, and that's what was caught on camera, right? There's a little video where he shoots in and Khamzat kind of turns the corner, takes the back and stuff. That looked like they were just drilling and Caio Borrahlo was being a willing training partner.
Meanwhile, famous UFC analysts Luke Thomas and Brian Campbell shared their reaction to DDP's injury and Caio Borrahlo calling out Khamzat. They said Dricus du Plessis' injury isn't officially confirmed and talked about how Khamzat quickly reacted on social media, calling DDP the biggest shit. They were also impressed with du Plessis' response and further shared their excitement for the Caio Borrahlo versus Khamzat fight. Both Luke and Brian believe it's a strong matchup for International Fight Week, where a big title fight is needed.
So the DDP injury is not like officially official, but Chimaev instantly took to social media, and let's see his reaction. This guy, biggest DDP did respond this morning, by the way, by showing essentially like the Wikipedia page of Chimaev's history of like
which
being
is quite
hurt
extensive,
or pulling out of fights or whatever that is right there. You're also seeing Caio Borrahlo saying, "I'll fight Chimaev," and then saying on Twitter that Chimaev accepted it, and then even going as far as saying that fight has to be for the interim title.
On its own terms, Chimaev versus Borrahlo is a great fight. There needs to be some kind of major title resolution at International Fight Week.
So, to sum up, Daniel Cormier shut down the idea of an interim title fight between Khamzat Chimaev and Caio Borrahlo, backing Dricus du Plessis as a true and active champion. While Caio earned respect for calling out Khamzat, Cormier believes there's no need for an interim belt. The drama continues, but for now, the title belongs to DDP, and the rest will play out in the cage. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more fight updates.